Welcome back to the Wyckoff Crypto discussion. As usual, this presentation is for educational purpose only. Please stop the video and read the disclaimer. Some profit taking is happening in the market, but we still see some absorption around the key support level. In this case, I'm using this moving average, but we can even draw just a simple channel right here. So Roman, what's going on with this channel?
Well, I think it's like a vertical absorption, where in the first part of the October low, we have a lot of momentum buying, and that drives the price in the way and then the character that it is. It was a lot of, strong impulses up with very, favorable T1, strong tests. And then we go into the period where there is some profit taking since, let's say, like February. There is some profit taken, second part of December. But it's in the uptrending environment. So we call this a vertical absorption part of the uptrend, where profit taking is happening, and then someone else is still buying, still collecting that supply. And that's why the spread is increasing, reactions are there, but they are almost immediately being negated. And until this pattern is broken, we kind of like still going up. Now, this pattern could be having some kind of the same magnitude reaction as we had like in December, and maybe even a little bit more. But the idea behind it is that supply is still being absorbed, and even after the reaction of the intermediate quality, we could have a long-term uptrend continuation. So I'm just saying, like, it's still a possibility that we're not completely done. So with that, any type of change to the current pattern would be the change.
Exactly. So far we are just seeing some potential acceleration, the stride. And only with the break of the channel, Roman, I would suggest to look for potential change of behavior. But so far the uptrend looks still intact. And let's look at what's happening in the rest of the market, especially the Russell. So many times we have discussed the correlation between cryptos, small caps, and the Russell index. So we were seeing some supply coming around the highs right here, but today we see another day of absorption, and we see that the volume signature continues to be quite low. At the same time, Bitcoin and Ethereum are accelerating to the upside. Some profit taking is coming on Bitcoin around the all-time high. This is totally okay. But when we see a today approach to retest this level, we see a very strong retest. The same thing for Ethereum right here, which is, by the way, outperforming Bitcoin. So this is still suggesting at least an attempt to retest this high and overcome the all-time highs. What's your thought on this overall picture, man?
Well, the Russell is just hugging the resistance. So David Wise's term, right? So it's even though we were looking at the diminished upward result coming into the resistance, some supply is coming in, and yet it's holding, it's not going down. So that's a positive. The quick recovery for Ethereum and Bitcoin out of that yesterday's bar is also somewhat positive, but shows already some presence of supply. I'm still expecting an extension above the all-time high, and then some kind of top-in action, and after short-term top-in action, and after that some test and still continuation, because look at the approach here with the Bitcoin. So this is a weekly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are approaching the all-time high with a lot of strength on the increased volume after that ETF event where institutions are coming in. So with that, overextension on such strength suggests long-term continuation, but at the same structurally, we're thinking like this is like our major sign of strength over the all-time high. Therefore, extension should be there, and then we should react, take some profits. Yesterday's supply probably is like the first signs of that, and still resume the uptrend after some kind of testing. Alessio?
Yes, I totally agree with this idea, and this is a pattern that we've seen in Bitcoin many, many times, especially in this part of the cycle. So there is definitely acceleration to the upside. Some supplies coming in, even though on the weekly I still don't see a climatic bar, climatic volume bar, something like this. So we're still uh, seeing good demand coming in, and it will be totally okay at some point to decelerate and then have some form of correction where the old resistance becomes new support. But so far we are still in this continuation mode, and we have probably seen just a slight increase of supply on yesterday's bar, but the fact that now we are still trying to retest very quickly the all-time highs, I think it's indicative, suggestive of strength. And this is the daily picture for Bitcoin. So there is no doubt that on the daily, this is one of the largest volume signature that we've seen since the very beginning of this up move. But we have to remember that the recovery has been quite fast at this point, so there's a big demand tail, Roman. So I think that in the short term, we will probably try to attack the 70,000 level, which is, by the way, one of our first point and figure target for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin generally tends to overshoot the PNF target because there's so much momentum in this asset. Roman?
Yeah, I mean, I can't add anything to this. Um, I mean, it's still too aggressive to the upside, still suggests, new highs, and still a longer term trend is up.
And this is the shares Bitcoin Trust. So basically one of the most important ETF. And on this chart, Roman, we see definitely some profit taking around this level, then an attempt to continue in another important bar. But what's your take on this overall big bar? And by the way, today we're already at this level.
Well, it looks like a change of behavior bar, right? So there is definitely something to it, but it's still within the context of the uptrend. Didn't even touch the moving average, recovered pretty fast. I mean, sometimes a part of the uptrend is going to be emergent supply like this, and then continuation. So I'd say like it's a really good point for the stop loss. Because this is your danger point. This is where you don't want, the price to go below that, and then just to kind of see like if it's going to take us higher.
Yeah, and I like the fact that this bar has not been able to commit below this very important close. And now let's see the point and figure uh, objective right here. This is a 5-minute chart, and we see that the original target for on a 5-minute chart for Bitcoin was around $70,000, and this correction has occurred just a couple of $1,000 below the target, so still very good chart. And now we see that this is the big shakeout that we have seen just lately. So strong absorption on the way up, and then we take this count, we are already around this level. But I think that in the future we could even take a larger count like this, pointing above the same target, 70,000 target that we have discussed before. So on the point and figure charts, I see some confirmation of this attempt to overcome the high again, Roman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, like supply comes in and immediately is being absorbed. So there are definitely higher targets.
Yeah, and for the long term, this is another study that we have discussed in the previous episode. But I think it's important to look back at this. So we basically have this first accumulation structure for Bitcoin, the first segment of this accumulation pointing to 70,000, and then if we extend this causality, we easily get to close to $100,000, and we could still take larger count, but this is the rule. We have to be conservative, take one segment at a time, and only then extend the causality for much higher targets, even $2,000, $200,000 for Bitcoin. But so far, I think this is the most important causality that we have to study, Roman. So what's your take on this PNF?
Yeah, I like the structure. I mean, like everything looked so great, orderly. So yeah, I would most definitely, this would be exactly the count that I would take as well. Are you thinking maybe of extending this count like to the right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that in the future we have to think about this count. Now I want to be extremely conservative, but in the future, once we overcome that 100, very important, psychologically important number, 100,000, we could look for larger counts.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to remember to our community that the Wyckoff Crypto Scanners here. I'm very happy to see that traders are using this tool right now. So in the first page, you have the ability to identify trading ranges with low volatility. So if you're looking for a contraction of volatility like this, it's quite easy to identify with this tool. Then we have other scanning tool where we look for low volume around the key moving average. And of course, our new pointer figure charting software, which I think is very, very specific to crypto, and you can find the percentage scaling, which is not available on other platforms. So use this software, and very happy to see that traders are just using the software to find easily find some contraction of volatility trades. And now Ethereum, Roman.
That looks fantastic, by the way.
And
Like I just want to say, like kudos to you, Alessio, for doing all of this. And you know, from time to time, I see the comments of the members in the group. Yeah, this is very special what Alessio is creating here for you guys and for all of us, and it just looks amazing.
yes, and we want to make your life easier. And sometimes, with all these
Please
crypto
do.
assets, or with all these crypto assets moving at the same time, it could be difficult. It could be hard to see, oh, this asset's moving, but also that asset is moving faster. So here you have, for example, the relative strength score. So you can just look for assets that are showing massive outperformance and focus on a small selection of assets. And by the way, month by month, I'm adding more and more functionalities. But now let's come back to the charts, and we see that Ethereum is currently outperforming Bitcoin. So even the big reaction is not that we have seen for Bitcoin on intraday. Here on the 3-day chart is barely visible. So we just have this small demand tail and then strong recovery, and we have been able to overcome this resistance, Roman, which makes me think that if we could easily reach this target, the all-time high for Ethereum as well. And we have a lot of accumulation in the structure, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's all about the character. It's all about that strength of the character, and it just all shows that those targets are quite possible. And I bet you, Alessio, have you already measured the whole formation there in 2023?
Yeah, and actually, just a small segment of the structure, like this segment, could easily point to the all-time high. And then we will have to take the whole accumulation structure.
Yeah.
So
it feels to me like it definitely should overcome in this cycle, in the way how the latest leg up is unfolding. It's accelerating through so many levels of resistance on the way down. It just tells you that I'm gonna overcome this resistance of 4,800. It's just that strong. But it's gonna take some time, but it will overcome it. So therefore, you might be thinking like, what's my larger causality than the all-time high? And Alessio is just highlighting this in that second and third segment.
And when we look at the DeFi index, so the basically this is the altcoin index, we see that we were discussing this consolidation structure for some time, making up action followed by emergence of the uptrend. It's quite usual for this asset class to have this very strong shakeout followed by recovery. Comparing this reaction to the previous reaction right here, Roman, I would say that um, the volatility is increasing, so I wouldn't be totally surprised to see short-term overcoming and then maybe some form of retest in the next week, something like this, Roman. But we have to say that the recovery so far has been extremely aggressive. So this is still in line with the usual volatility of crypto assets when we enter the uptrend stage.
Yeah. Yeah, two possibilities here. The one that Alessio outlined, after such a shakeout, you might have just like, an ascending triangle formation that is just basically absorbing the supply at the ever higher level each time. So examples of those could be like 2010 examples. There are so many of them. Like look at like something like Apple in 2010 after the May 6 flash crash. Or another alternative here for this type of the scenarios is the 2018, 2019 volatility that we had in the market. You had 3 legs down. And they all were like lower lows before we start going up finally. So, but I think that this is probably a lower percentages on the scenario just because of how overall market is. You always have to think about the gravity of the market will define the structure of the individual issues, to a certain degree. And here, I mean, the market is so strong. So I'd be thinking more in bullish terms and probably what Alessio was showing, with the apex.
Great. And now let's see, in terms of capital allocation, still 15% for Bitcoin and Ethereum, Solana and others, mid caps 20%, even though Solana is not outperforming right here. But look at the way we are recovering right here. So quite interesting recovery. And then 50% in mid caps, low caps that are showing evidence of strength. And this is the example that we see, for example, for Akash Network, which is, by the way, already making new highs. So we've been able to recover this reaction much faster than on Bitcoin, for example. So the overall allocation continues to be quite aggressive, Roman, when we sum all this 15%, 20%, and 50%. And I think it's still the case until we see a clear change of behavior in this market.
Yeah, at first, like I'm starting with Bitcoin, Ethereum, 15%, and I'm thinking like, ooh, that's undersized. But then I definitely see like, okay, 20 and then 50, so 85%. So overall, I would say that for the market, that we are running cryptos, you should be between that, like 80 to 100% invested because this is your move. This is your time. When you have this opportunity, gotta be a pig, right? So controlling your risk, but at the same time, when opportunity is there, the uptrends are there. Take advantage of them. And Alessio was guiding you guys through all of this. So, I'm sure that a lot of you have good results. And I like also, Alessio, how you put the allocation there into these small caps more, the mid and low caps more, because they're gonna move more. Although, I mean, like, I'm extremely impressed with the Bitcoin. One of the things that I still keep wanting to do, and just like no time to trade everything, but just to trade Bitcoin with options. Like I think like with the most that Bitcoin has right now, just like very favorable.
Yeah, and you can create more leverage using options for Bitcoin, but still keeping the overall allocation a bit lower compared to low caps where you can just be invested using wide stop
Cash.
losses, cash
Yeah.
positions, and in this way, even this very sudden volatility will not shake you out of position. And it's quite usual to see high volatility as we enter the uptrend stage, speculative stage for crypto assets. So I think that this allocation will help you to manage the volatility and still be participating in this uptrend. Now let's see some assets right here. So we have Akash Network. This was one of our favorites. They're still making new highs. And look how this we are basically testing the 21 moving average. This reaction is quite laborious to the downside, so we do not see a lot of verticality. And when you look at the 4-hour time frame right here, we see a beautiful structure. So buying climax, automatic reaction, secondary test, and then spring followed by strong recovery to the upside. So in case we will hesitate around this level, create some kind of baking up action, I think that that will be another opportunity to enter to the upside.
Yeah. I like the strength out of the bottom, out of the spring. All of those bars, they're just showing that demand is coming back in control. This is one of the best bars, since the last upswing started to develop. Again, I like all of the LSS references to the moving averages. You look historically back into 2023, you've got plenty of those. So just a matter of like timing it correctly on the lower time frame, entering earlier, and then riding that, either the swing or like a campaign.
And very similar pattern here for Nozana, so other small caps. I like the fact that the volume is decreasing throughout this consolidation. And on the 4-hour chart, we see some volatility, so some aggression to the downside, but at least here we have a strong recovery, which looks like a sign of strength rally right now. So look at the way we have this expansion to the upside. So Roman, I think that we could expect still continuation to the upside, and this 4-hour chart can help us to identify some point of entry right here.
Yeah, same concepts, like a concept of how does the character changes. There is definitely some strength that's coming in. I wouldn't say that I'm impressed with the volume coming in, though. This is a little bit of a suspect for me. The volume signature, it's not increasing as much. I'm looking at the daily. Like, is this today, right?
Yes,
So maybe
yes.
the volume will increase a little bit. Okay, I mean, definitely is trying to go, and you're always gonna go with the uptrend when it's established, even if the takeoff maybe like it's not that great. So still there are probabilities on your side. But that's the only thing that I would be like as a counter argument. Are there any other crypto assets that are gonna be, better in some better pattern? But yeah, lots of bullishness there. Oh my goodness, look at
Yeah,
this.
and this is Fetch, which is one of the
Yes,
leader of
something
this
like
bull
that.
run. So, or we are
Wow.
already recovering. And look at the way for Bitcoin we had
Mhm.
this big shakeout, like 8,000 dollar bar in just one day. Look at this shakeout for Fetch. It's way more contained. So we have just this demand tail below the support, and then we are already making new highs on today's bar. So this is still suggestive of strength for the overall crypto ecosystem.
Mhm. Yeah, amazing run and amazing recovery. And again, like during the uptrends, you are going to have those um, bars that are going to have some supply, and then demand is going to come in and absorb it. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Look at this, attempt to shake out. It's more of a spring, not a shakeout. There is only one, commitment down, and demand is so aggressively negating this bar. So your entry could be just literally like on the green bar, on the first green bar, or the next, down bar right there, going through the levels.
Yeah, and in case we will, for example, have mini reaction, something like this is still actionable, I think, Roman. So
Mhm.
very good asset right here. Then we have other assets that are showing after several days reacting. Today's bar looks very favorable. So we are still talking about small caps. So interesting pattern right here. We're finally broken this down channel, and this looks like a change of behavior, Roman. So for the first time, we were able to overcome all these bars. And by the way, this overall reaction looks still very laborious and contained when you compare this to the rally.
Yeah. Um, Again, same principles of identifying the strength and yeah, seeing that change of behavior um, deep down, but just a little bit into like one half of the decline. So yeah, and showing a lot of strength. And look at the volume signature. It is on the intraday is confirming, and hopefully today it's going to be closer to yesterday's day on the daily. So if the volume signature is close to yesterday's, that's just going to tell you like, yeah, there is energy coming in and pushing the price up.
Great. And let's look at meme coins. So there are still meme coin going up, and we were discussing PIB in our previous episode. I'm quite happy to see that this is still consistently making higher highs and higher lows. And look at this pattern: very shallow accumulation, then big run up, and even here the shakeout move so far, I think, still contained. So I would suggest to see probably something like this where we make a higher low, and after that we continue to make new highs. So a higher low, Roman, on just lower volume would be a much higher probability continuation
Hmm.
setup. But we could even
Yeah, I like
reside in the upper
what you
part
drew.
of the trading range. So
Yeah, I like what you drew here. I mean, it's just supply that's coming in does not produce like it definitely is change of behavior, suggesting that we are going into a trading range, but it's not doesn't look like climactic as the volume, climactic as the move up, right? So we don't have a lot of like acceleration into the end of that stop in action. Next rally up is not as strong, so therefore still thinking that you're in the trading range, that you're going to have the next reaction, but the bars at the top of that are not strong either to the downside. They're showing that there is some support. So still, you're probably operating under the bias of reaccumulation to fail or to confirm.
yes, and I've seen a very smart comment in our Discord group. So basically, this overall idea that every time we see this increase of volatility during the bull run, our thinking should just be, oh, this is a change of behavior. This is a first automatic rally. What happens after the automatic reaction? We just look for a trading range. The point is that, especially when we have so much strength in the background, the trading range, instead of having like a classic long trading range, could take much less time to develop and have a structure like this. And we have to be used to this kind of pattern because we will see this again and again during this bull run. Now we see injected capital. This is one of my favorite assets for the long term, but I have to say that some volatility is present right here. So let's see what kind of test we will have after this mini shakeout. I still like the fact that price was not able to break below the support of this trading range. I think this is a very important level. Roman, probably we will try to do something like this, retesting this level again, maybe short term a trading range, and after that a point of entry again above this local resistance. What do you think?
Alessio, I apologize. I do not see the next slide. I'm still on PAL. Oh, Pepe, right?
And
Are we
now,
still discussing it or?
no, injected capital now. So you can't see this?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, now it moved. Yes.
okay,
ING.
okay,
Okay, yeah.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of, I see what you're saying. Kind of the same idea that we might go into a trading range behind that big tail. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Some increased volatility, like going into that resistance on the second to last bar. And but yeah, really good response of the support. So there is definitely some buying. The last time we had this type of tail that stopped the change of behavior from unfolding further down. So to the left, like that late December tail. So yeah, more consolidation, more testing before we might continue.
Great. And I still have a position in this asset, Roman, because my idea is that on many of the small caps, I do not have tight stop losses right now. I just want to let price action to flow, able to flow for some time, and because I think that being too aggressive when you expect some kind of shakeout could stop you out very, very easily. So right now, my stop loss for this asset is just below this level and
Mhm.
nothing else. So then we have the strong recovery. So this is a very pattern that we have seen for other assets. So laborious reaction, and now we are seeing a change of behavior rally. And I think, Roman, that this could be a bit tricky to trade since generally after all this long-term volatility, it takes some time to have a breakout and then have another breaking up action, which could be a bit unnerving for many traders. But overall, the trade is the overall setup looks quite interesting, especially when we think that we are stopping right here above the previous resistance, which is now active as a support, Roman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, the extension of it above the resistance is very favorable, but it also at the same time, suggested that we're going to have a larger reaction, just, the mere extension of it. Yeah, and this is the first bar in this whole sequence that is on the daily that is a very, very aggressive up bar re-engages buyers. And on the intraday, yeah, a really great recovery of the sprain was the tests, and then current bar as a continuation confirmation acts as a sign of strength bar.
Great. So let's continue. Solana, we are talking about one of the large cap in the crypto ecosystem. I think that this test, the ability, the fact that we have not been able to test the high today, but we are still hovering around the level of the close of yesterday, I think this is suggestive of more consolidation ahead for this asset. So probably just looking at the volume signature right here, this highest volume signature throughout the whole trading range, this is suggestive of maybe another mini trading range for developing right here, something like this, where we could spend time, retest this level, and so on. But overall, I think that the structure looks still very, very constructive, Roman, especially when you think that we have a lot of accumulation right here.
Yeah, the last leg up also advancing in spread and expanding in volume, and that is going into the resistance, and that shows strength, ability to overcome resistance on the expanding strength is positive. And then it just yesterday's day, like supply is coming in. So yeah, I would agree with Alessio, some testing is required. But it seems like demand came in right there. So let's just see what kind of follow through we're gonna have today into the close and also, like this week.
Yeah. And we have traded this asset on multiple occasions. I think this was giving us a very important signal because we were looking for the spring right here. We were able to enjoy this move. We were looking for a reaccumulation right here. We were able to enjoy this move. We were looking for a short right here. And then this short has failed. And this acts as a failed signal, this confirming the short-term weakness of this asset. And look what a beautiful rally and like overextending above this local high. So I'm still in this like bullish regime for Solana. It's just that we probably need to consolidate in this area and just make another couple of down bars on lower volume. And after that, we could be ready for the advance. Other assets showing strength right here. So I really like this consolidation with a sign of strength above the local resistance. And now we have this first move. So I think the key right now, just looking at the intraday, and every time we are touching, Roman, this short-term moving average on decreasing volume, we just look for the 4-hour chart or the 1-hour chart and see if we are able to catch some springs, some continuation pattern, and so on. So far, this looks very promising.
Yeah, really good strategy. Yeah, they all look the same, Alessio.
Yeah, it's a good thing, by the way.
I have a feeling like we're discussing the same chart over and over.
So we have Nakamoto Games. We were looking for a breakout in last week. So this basically this trade, and then we are over committing this high, and then this reaction right now. Yeah, there's definitely some volume increasing, but at least we are not breaking below the low of this level, which I think is the most important level. And
the analog to this, Alessio, is probably going to be all of the 4-hour charts that you've shown for the stocks. Oh, I'm sorry, stocks. Keep saying stocks. For the cryptos that already started on the 4 that move. So you just want to catch the same.
Great. And here we have render, which by the way was already suggesting some weakness in the previous day. And this is a pattern that we observed many times. So every time Bitcoin is accelerating to the upside, it attract capital from other assets which are competing with Bitcoin. So we have this deceleration of the trend, and then so Bitcoin accelerates, and then some profit taking, and now we have this strong rally after this pause. So I'm thinking, Roman, maybe we're just taking some profit taking from Bitcoin, and some capital is flowing back to the altcoin market. This is a possibility.
Yeah, looks like like just a typical rotation, right?
Yeah.
Something overextends, you take the profits and then put it somewhere else.
Yeah, and be very nice to have just a couple of down bars at this point as a backing up action. Casper, this was one of my favorite assets. I don't like the way we are like coming back into the support right here. I think that for the long term is totally fine. I still see decent strength, but we have to remember that the asset right here is showing some deterioration of the relative strength. So probably, Roman, I think two scenario: trading range right here, something like this, and then recovery, or maybe even a way more complex formation with a shakeout in phase T. In both cases, I still have a position in this asset originated right here.
Yeah, this last bar of interest comes after somewhat of a closely the same bar before with the tail. And we see how after that bar, everything is to the downside. So this is a little bit more concerning than other patterns that we've seen today. So yeah, I would probably be thinking in the same ways. Best case scenario, we just test above that resistance, and then, or just continue sliding down, as we are sliding down basically with almost each close, right? So which is each high or each low. So this is definitely short-term more bearish than anything else that we've seen.
For sure. Then we have also a lot of small caps following this pattern. So this is a typical positive launch for one asset, and then a accumulation in the upper part of the trading range, initial trading range. And right now we are just showing low supply into the previous high. So this is still bullish, Roman. And I think that if the bullish sentiment persists at this point in the overall market, pattern like this could be very profitable. Roman?
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Yeah, I like how the volume decreases on the last 5 bars above the resistance. Yeah, looks like such a good setup and it's touching, that moving average.
Yeah, we could use this moving average just for our stop loss. This is a pattern that I use very often. So we don't need to have like a stop loss around this level. This is just a contraction of volatility. If this apex fails, we are out of this position right away. And this way we reduce our risk. And then we have another, this is a long-term chart for a long-term campaign that we have discussed last week. And I'm very happy to see that right here we still see some acceleration to the upside. So from this bar to this bar to this bar. And right now I still see some absorption on this last attempt to go down. So we just have this demand tail, the supply signature still below 1/2 of this big bar. So let's see how this closes. But for the long term, Roman, this is a hell of causality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like a long-term campaign. I like the ending of the last quarter of 23, where we have like the volume swell, and it shows both supply and demand. Demand is absorbing supply, but we know that because the price still goes up. And then, yeah, that acceleration that Alessia mentioned about the resistance. Yeah, okay, this looks great.
Yeah, and this was the last chart for today, Roman.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I mean, I'm just happy to come back for this camera appearance. You guys are doing such a great job as a community, and also, like, I absolutely love everything that Alessio does with the software, with the development of those, tools, and you're benefiting from this, just like so perfect. So thank you, Alessio.
Thank you, Roman. See you next week for the next Wyckoff Crypto discussion. Thank you.
Bye bye.